Hello everyone, good morning to all of you. You all can hear me? Hello, you all can hear me?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, fine. Okay. So let us begin with. Okay, the screen is visible now. Yeah, okay. Last topic what we have in this second module is there are two case studies we have. One is how does the scheduling will happen? How does the scheduling will happen in Unix? Any one of you, what do you know about Unix? Anything can you share? If you know anything about Unix, can you share? Unix, anything you know about Unix? So this is completely pure time sharing process. What does this time sharing process mean? So you have n number of process, let us say P1 up to Pn number of process. Each of this process will be given some time. Let us say some time it is given, let us say 1 millisecond or 1 second. So based on this, each of the process will be executed. So it's completely based upon a time sharing process. So depending on the time what we have got, it will able to complete the task. Okay, and it's also a multi-level adaptive scheduling policy. It has, what is that it has next? It has multi-level adaptive scheduling. What does this adaptive mean? Multi-level adaptive, so scheduling, it does multi-level adaptive scheduling. What does this adaptive mean? Which means it can adopt in any level. Let us say you have n number of process here, P1 to P4, so any number of level it can go up to. Okay, so which means you have P1 process going on, right? And now this P1 process is interrupted by P2, then P2 is going on, so this one is interrupted by P4, so you go on. Next again, when you resume back, it has to come back to P2, and from there it has to come back to P1. So there are multi-level process going on here. So it can able to do multi-level adaptive scheduling. Okay, and also it will make sure that this operating system Unix will make sure that it will have a good system performance. It will have good system performance. It will have good system performance. What does this good system performance mean? To have a good system performance, what does it mean? Along with that good system performance, it's also provide good user service. It will provide good user service. So these are the key features of the operating system, which is Unix. Okay, and now let us see now what all how the priorities are being given. So it will have, let us say, process, let us say 0 to 127. So it will give the priorities based on 0 up to 127 process. It can give the range. This is a range what we can provide the priorities. Okay, and then it will have the priorities between 50 to 127. There is some other range called 50 to 127. This is some other range what we have. Let us see the difference of these two. So this is being done in the user mode. So this range is the user mode and this is the kernel mode. Okay, based on user mode and kernel mode, the priorities will be given from 0 to 127 and 50 to 127. Out of that, the priorities will be given if it is, let us say, from 50 to 127 we are using for this, then the user can give the priorities 50 to 127 we have. In that case, the user can give the priorities only from 0 to 49. So this is what the user can give the priorities, which means up to 49 process parallelly we can able to give the priorities. Let us say out of this one of the process get blocked. So out of this one of them is blocked. Blocked means we cannot able to give the access. So one of them, one of the process, any one of the process is, let us say, blocked. Okay, so that blocked will be in the range from 0 to 49 again. In this range only we can able to block the process. So it can be any reason why we are blocking it and what for we are blocking, until we get the reminder, to unblock it. So it will keep in the block state, it will be in the block state until we get that reminder. Okay, and if you go to the kernel mode, whereas the range is between 50 to 127. So how to give the priority to access? Now how shall we give the priority? The priority for this one will be given in this way. So for the process priority, we call it as process priority. So this factor of process priority is given by base priority. For user process, we will give the base priority for the user process. There are two types of process we have seen, right? User process and kernel process. So in that base priority of the user process, plus we are going to take that into consideration the CPU time used. What is the amount of CPU time it has used? CPU time used. Along with that, we are able to consider something called as nice value. So based on this formula, the scheduling will be done, and in case of Unix operating system. So let us try to understand what is this base priority, CPU time and nice value. With that, we'll conclude the scheduling in Unix. Okay, so the scheduling will be implemented in this manner. The scheduling will be implemented here in this manner. First, what we'll do is we'll have the scheduler. Let us say we have the scheduler here. So we have the scheduler. What the scheduler will do, it is going to maintain the CPU time. It's going to maintain the CPU time. How much time the CPU it is taking to access each of them is going to maintain, and it is the CPU time will be maintained as what? As maintained in the form of process table. It is maintained in the form of process table. So each and every value will be entered into it. So we'll be entering all the values in a table form. Okay. So initially these table values, all the table values are 0. Initially all these table values are given as 0. Okay. And we are using something called as real-time clock based on the interrupt 60 times second. So this RTC we'll call it as, right, real-time clock. We know that every 1 minute we'll have 60 seconds, right? So based on that, so it does 60, okay, 60 times a second. So every one millisecond, for 1 second, not for minute, for one second, for 1 second we have around 60 times it's going to check for the update. It keeps on updating in the Unix operating system. Based on this update, the clock handler will increments and the count in the CPU field will be running process will be incremented. So let us say 1 second we increase this by 60 times, it will increase this. So based on this change in the time, every 1 millisecond, let us say, or 1 time what we increase here, the CPU clock will get updated. The CPU clock will get updated. So based on this update in the CPU clock, what will happen? The process table will be updated. The process table will be updated. Based on this process table update, we will get the update in the CPU time consumed. So this CPU time consumed here will be used for the calculation of the allocating priorities for the process. So this is how the functionality of the scheduling will happen in case of Unix. Okay, and further it also give the priority in this case like this. So the nice value will be the priority value. We told something called nice value, right? So that is the priority value. What is this priority value? This priority value is what? So this priority value will be given default, that is called as nice value. Which means in the program itself, when we have process P1, process P2, P3, we have 3 processes. Let us say this process value is given 0 default, this is 2, this is 1. Let us say this will have the highest priority and this will have the lowest priority. Now this priority value is being given here as 0. In this case, this will have the highest priority. Okay, if this is being given as 2, so this is the nice value. Based on this also the priority will be decided, right? So this priority value will be decided based on CPU time and based on the nice value and based on again some other process what we used. So this is how this processing will be carried out in case of what? In case of Unix. In case of Unix, so this is what will happen. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to look at the scheduling part, what is happening, scheduling, how it is happening in Unix. Is what we have seen. Okay, so it basically is a time sharing process. It's adaptive, it provides good service and it provides good performance, is what we understood. Okay, and it has 2 types of modes. What it has, user mode as well as the kernel mode. User mode is from 0 to 127. Okay, and kernel mode is from 50 to 127. So based on that, the time sharing process it's keep going and the scheduler will update the functionalities. So this is how it works, right? Now let us see something about this Unix we have seen basically, and now let us see something after this second case study. Let us try to understand. So we try to understand next is what? So scheduling. Scheduling in Linux. So we have heard about Linux. Any doubts? Anyone have any doubts?
What do you mean by nice?
Which one?
Nice value.
Nice value. So actually it's like this. It is. Let us say if I am trying to, let us try to understand here something called nice value. Okay. So now what we do here is okay, yeah, it's very simple. What is this nice value here is it's like you have some membership anywhere. Okay, let us take a credit card or let us take anything else. You have a credit card, let us say. So now when you are trying to take a credit card, there is something called CIBIL score. Okay, this will tell you that what is your CIBIL score means what. These points are above 750. We can able to tell, like the banker can able to tell, like, yeah, this person is loyal, we can able to give the loan for this person. Okay, so like that what they made something like that here, something called nice value, which is the default priorities. Let us say this is like some default priority value, which means once I give default priority, It should not overrule the other things. So default priority can be 0, can be 1, can be 2. We have process of 0 to 49. Okay, let us say this 0 is the highest priority and 49 is the lowest priority. So this value, what we have in the priority, will be the nice value. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this can be 0 or it can be any of the positive value. Like we have seen 0 to 49, it can be any value. Okay. Yeah. So next we'll see how do the scheduling will happen in case of Linux. Now, so this Linux, what it will do is it have two different portfolios, or it has two different things. What it does non-real-time applications and real-time applications. So this Linux will function based on non-real-time applications as well as real-time applications. The two things are there here. Okay, when it happens, two different vertical portfolios we have here. Now two verticals it has here. Okay, which means it should have two different classes of operating system. It should have two different classes. There is one class of for this process. We need to have different entities for this process. You should have different entity. Let us say you have theory and laboratory. So we need to have a different setup for theory. Okay, you should have your assignments, should have your lectures, should have your IA exams. But whereas in case of laboratories, there are no assignments, but you have records and you have your manuals, okay, and you have your IA1 and external exam. So this way it will be, the pattern will be different, right? So like that, we cannot use the same process for real time and non-real time. So we need to have separate entities for real time and non-real time. Okay. So in real time case, we should have the static priorities. In this real time case, we need to have the static priorities, let us say from 0 to 100. In case of Linux, okay, where the 0 is the highest priority. So have the highest priority, and let us say this 100 value is the low priority. So this way we can have the low process or low priority, let us say low priority for this process. Okay, and this real-time operating system process can schedule in two ways. Again, what they made here, this real-time process, what applications will have two types of schedulings they have made. What is the two types of scheduling they made here? So one type of scheduling is like first in, first out date, okay, or we can make it as a round robin. So it can be first in, first out, or it can be round robin. In these two methods, any one of them it can able to follow the round robin and first in, first out. What is the advantage here if you use first in, first out is it's like once the process has entered, P1 is entered into the ready queue. After completing only we can give it to next one. Whereas in case of round robin, we can have preemptive. Let us say this much more clearly like this. This is more sort of first in, first out is more sort of non-preemptive type, and this round robin is like preemptive type. So this is non-preemptive type, and this can be like preemptive type. Which one we want to use, we can have option. So that's why this real-time applications also they have got categorized in two ways. We can use this in, first out, or we can use in a round robin based on each level of priority level. Okay, and now this will have something called as flags for each one. So each of this process in this real-time applications, let us say we have process P1, P2, something like this. So in this real time, let us say we have process P1. P1 will have a flag. So based on this P1 flag status, it can able to indicate whether it is scheduled or it is not scheduled. Not scheduled, we can able to find out from this flag. Wherein in case of non-real time case, this what will happen in case of non-real time. Sorry, real time. In case of non-real time, what will happen is this will also have the priorities. This will also have the priorities, but out of when we compare these two, this will have the first priority, this will have second priority. If there is a tie between these two, non-real time and real time, so definitely defaultly the priority will go to real time applications, and then it comes to non-real time applications. Again, in this non-real time application process, let us say we have process P1, P2 and P3 are there here for non-real time, and then again we can allocate priorities inside this. Okay, so but defaultly it will have the this complete non-real time applications will have the low priority, overall. When you look at overall functionality, it will have the low priority because real time will have the more priority, so that will be given for that. And if real time functions are not there, then defaultly it will go to the priority for the non-real time process. Okay, and this priorities in this case, they are anyway low priority, so we need to give the priorities here dynamically. So we need to give dynamical way of priorities, and let us say these values are between, it's a negative values in terms of -20 and in terms of 2 -20 to 90 they are given, where in this case -20 negative values will have the highest priority, will have the high priority, and whereas this 19, let us say if you take -20 to 19 in that case, so 19 will have the low priority. Okay, so this were the priorities in case of non-real time were given, right? And we have something called as kernel, right? So in this also we have something called kernel. So what this kernel will do, this kernel part will have around hundreds of 100 priorities it will have. Let us say 100 it will have, which means if you take 100, let us say plus 40, 100 plus 40 we have in this total 100 plus 40 priorities we have. To understand this, each of the non-real process will have priority 0. This non-real time initially the priority will be given 0 default, because it does not have any priority, low priority, we will give that as 0 default. Okay, this priority we can vary this priority by through any of the value. We can change it by setting up some nice value here also. We can setting up by nice value, we can again change it, or we can change it by using set priorities. You may tell, sir, this non-real time we should not give any priority. They are given 0 as default priority. Based on the nice value we can change for this if you want, and we can able to set the priorities for this whenever required. Based on this, actions can be decided based on the system call, so based on that it can able to function. Okay, now and we also can give special privileges. Okay, this non-real time, this also we can give something called as special privileges. Through that also we can able to set the priorities along with the nice value and set priority values and system call. Along with that we can also do something called as special priorities. So along with this priorities, what we can also do is we can also categorize this priorities based on 3 things. Again, this priorities in this can be categorized based on CPU, okay, based on input or output, right? And so this can be IO bound, or this can be CPU bound, which means whether you are trying to give the priority for the CPU you are giving, or for the input or output you are giving, also we can able to decide, right? Okay, and we can able to block this. We can able to block it also. Along with giving priorities, we can also block these functionalities. So we can also block whenever we want. We don't want to use it, we can able to block, and we can able to give. Along with this blockage, what they are given is they have after blockage is done, we can also give +5 priorities and -5 priorities. If you want to increase the priority level by +5, let us say, or let us say you want to decrease it by +5, or you can increase it by -5, you can able to change it. Let us say it is having priority as -20 is the highest we thought, let us say. So along with this -20, we can able to give 5 values for this, which means -5 if you give, -25 it will become, the priority of that can be further increased. Or you want to decrease this priority, you can add the value of +5 for this, it become -15, we can able to decrease the priorities. So this is like change in this is like bonus. Okay, if this bonus values also can be added to increase the value of it and to decrease the value of it. And this +5 again we can able to also change it in the nice value. So plus or minus 5. So 5 we can able to change by the nice value. So 5 we can change for nice value also. We can also change this nice value in order to increase or enhance the priority, and we can able to use this for the efficient effective priority can be changed. Effective priority value can be changed from this. Okay, so this is how the scheduling process will go on in case of Linux. Let us say something like the time slice. Here we have seen delta, right? So this is a time slice. So this delta value can be from 10 up to 200 milliseconds. We can increase this time value from 10 milliseconds, let us say, to 200 milliseconds. However, how much time we want to give, we can give. Let us say this is the time slot. Usually we see an example for P1 for 1 second we have seen, right? So like that, instead of using 1 second in real time, if you want to use it, but to understand we have seen 1 second. But in real time, this will not take 1 second, right? Because immediately it has to open. So it can use 10 milliseconds minimum. Okay, or it can use maximum up to, the time slot can be given up to 200 milliseconds. So this way we can able to change the time for the scheduling in case of Linux. Okay. So whichever we have, and one more thing what we can do in this Linux here is, if let us say we have some process P1, let us say some process P1 we have. So this will have the highest priority. Will have the highest priority. Now this scheduler, CPU scheduler, can give more delta time. This time can be given to 200 milliseconds. And let us say P7 something or P5, which will have, let us say, low priority. Right? This can also give the value of this time quantum as 10 milliseconds, which means whichever is have the priority, we can able to give more time. Which is low priority, we can able to give minimum time if you want. So depending on the requirement, we can able to change that. That provision also we have in case of Linux. Okay, and what else we can do? This scheduling scalability is very large in this, so we can able to schedule this in a very large way. So what we can do is we can able to do that by using flags. So we can, one second. Okay. So we can able to scale it up or scale it down. This scalability we have here. What are the scalability will do is, so we can do it in two ways. Scalability of this, we can do it in two ways. So one way is the scheduler have the bit flag. We have the flag for it. We have the flag for it for each binary bit value. It can have a 0 or it can have value of 1. Okay, which means whether this scheduler or the process is in the list or it is empty. Let us say it has some priority, we'll give 1. If it is 0, let us say it does not have any priority. There is no priority for this. No, any priority of this will be given 0, nothing, and it has priority. To show that, we can use the flags and do that. There's one way of doing it, and the other way of doing that is what Yeah, that's what this flag bit 0 is one type, and let us say giving flag bit 1 as default, we can give it. So we can, whichever we want, we can able to do that. Either we can give 1 or we can give either 0. Okay, all these arrangements what we have made in case of Linux will ensure that the CPU time will be utilized effectively. So there are a lot of things based on this has been done in order to enhance the system performance. So a lot more things are there. So this what case studies they are given, and if you want, you can see some case studies what is being given for Windows also. We are using Windows operating system, right? So Windows also, how the scheduling is being done is being discussed. You can go through that and you can study that. So as of now, these two are good enough to understand as per the syllabus is concerned. Okay, so just try to understand some more basics of Linux and Unix, and you can able to understand how this scheduling will be performed in it. Okay, just once you read it will be enough, and you please note down when you are reading it, you note down the key important points what are required for Linux and for Unix. Okay, so with that we can able to tell like we have completed our second module, and I request you all to do some numericals or some problems. Let us say I'll give some problems here. If you can try to do that, 1 second. Yeah, so take this some numericals. Let us say you take it for, let us say, process P1, P2, P3, P4 and P5. You take the arrival time and you take the service time. Arrival time is 0, 2, 1, 4 and 3, let us say. Each one have service time of 3, 3, 3, 3. For this also it's 3, let us say. And the time quantum you can take it as 2. Just a second. Yeah, you can take the time here given 3, and then you can take the time quantum delta. So this is called as time quantum. This time quantum you can take example of 2, do it, and time quantum delta equals 1, you do it. These two cases you can do it for FCFS. You can compute, and you can compute for round robin, you can compute for LCM, and you can compute for shortest request next. Out of these two, this is a non-preemptive, this is also non-preemptive, and whereas these two are preemptive scheduling algorithms. You try to do it and try to find out the average TA and then average W, and finally find out the TA bar and W bar. If you can compute this problem for all these four, then you can able to easily fetch your 10 marks. Please note down this problem, and then just we'll see the syllabus contents what you have in the module 3. We'll just begin with module 3. Okay, is this problem clear? You should be able to find out these values. What is this TA for this all? Before TA, you can able to find out the completion time, and we can able to find this W also. What are these values for all? So you should, 4 problems are there, and these 4 problems you have to time quantum delta equals to 1 and delta equals to 2, which means total you'll get 8 tables. You should be able to do it. 8 problems you can able to do it. So in this 8 problems, 4 at least you try to do. Any one of that you do it. If you can understand one, other one you can do very easily. Okay, any one you try to start with and you do it every day. One problem you can take it out. In 8 days you can completely master this module 2, what all numericals we have, right? So please take it. It will be interesting. Every day one numerical you can take it and you can able to solve. You can take your own example and solve that. So that's what the request from my side. If you can do that, it will help you a lot. Okay, so next to begin with next module. Any doubts you have in module 2? So to begin with this module 3, so this module 3 will talk about memory. This module 3 will talk about, till now what we have discussed is on process, right? So till now what we discussed is of process. Just a minute, we'll take up the new one. Yeah, so we'll begin with here. Okay. Yes. Okay, let us discuss on module 3. This one. Okay. So in this module 3, we talk about next memory management. Talk about memory management. So how do we use the memory and how it happens? 1 second, I just want to adjust something here. Okay, in this memory management, we have the first topic. What we have is just a second. Yeah, okay. Right. So we'll start with first topic in this memory management. So this memory management, so we have the first topic. This is contiguous memory location. Means it mainly talks about how the memory is being done, and second way is what non-contiguous memory location. So these two allocations we'll see initially, and after that how to do this segmentation and how to do this paging is what we're going to see. How to do this paging, part, and after that how to do the segmentation for this. One second. Okay, how to do the segmentation for this. How to do the segmentation. The segmentation, again we can do segmentation with paging and without paging. So in this again we do the segmentation with paging. The segmentation process we have to do with the paging. How to do that we're going to see. So up to this 1, 2, 3, 4 topics what we have seen, right? This all will be in one part. This all memory management part it's going to be. All these 4 will be the part of memory management. They all will come under one chapter. So from here next one so will be memory management. Apart from that we have in virtual memory concepts will come up from here. There is something called as virtual memory. How we can use virtual memory and how to access this virtual memory, all that we have here. So this virtual memory management. Virtual means what? Which is unreal, which is not there, but will feel like it is there and we have that. So that's called virtual memory, and how to create that and how to use that. So interesting stuff will be there here. We're going to see that. And again in that virtual memory, how to create this paging, how to based on the demand. So demand paging is what we're going to see. Okay, and we have to see next one is how to handle this. Actually this module 3 is a bit lengthy module. Apart from module 4 and 5, module 4 and 5 are very easy modules compared to this module. So it's a bit lengthy module because when you talk about memory, a lot of things will come into picture. So all that we need to cover. So it looks lengthy actually. So this is FIFO, and then we have something called as page replacement policies. We'll see the page replacement policies. So this is what we have, and after that how to use this applications perspective of this ninth one. Like we have seen how a process will be used in Unix and Linux, right? How this virtual memory will be used in case of Unix and also in case of Linux. So this much we have to go through that. So when you're looking at the textbook what I have shared to you, so memory management part, what you can do is this memory management part, you can use chapter 11 and 12. So this you can use chapter 11 and chapter 12, what is being shared, the PDF file, this textbook PDF file, what I have shared to you. From the PDF file you can read. This contagious memory location, this one will be 11.6. So use this one, 11.6, and non-contagious you would refer 11.7 from the textbook, 11.6 and 11.7, and paging part you look from 11.8. Okay, segmentation part with and without paging, this one you can use from 11.9. Okay, till there we have to use 11th chapter 6, 7, 8, 9. That much is good enough for this part, 11th chapter. And when you come to virtual memory management, this virtual memory management is a different chapter here in the part of memory. So it is being there given here. So this you have to refer 12th chapter, virtual memory management. You refer 12.1 from this for this virtual memory, and demand paging you read from 12.2. and VM handler you read from 12.3.1 VM handler, and this FIFO page replacement, all that you please refer from 12.4. and virtual memory Unix and Linux, this one Unix part you read from 12.8.1 and Linux part you read from 12.8.2. okay, which means when you look at this two chapters, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 subtopics here, that much you read is good enough, and only to go through other subsections. You see 12.1, 12.2 and 12.3 introduction, something will still be there, just this much will be good enough, 12.3.1 and 12.4 full you can read, and 12.8.1 and 8.2, this much is enough. Okay, these chapters you can read, and if you are reading from the textbook what is being prescribed by the syllabus, so that is what I have shared you is a different version. So from the textbook what you have already prescribed, that will be from the 5th and 6th chapters. Okay, so you refer to the sections 5.1 to 5.9 and 6.1 to 6.3. so you should read when you are reading from the second edition textbook what you have, but what we had shared is a first edition. So slight changes in the numbers. We do not have the soft copy or the PDF of the second version. If any one of you have, please share. Then you can read. This one is not required in this, and 6.7 is not required. Optimal policy of 6.1. So sorry, this one is not there. And along with this, we have 6.7 and 6.8. So this one, if you are reading second edition, you can see this corresponding chapter numbers. So this one is what first edition textbook, what we have used, what PDF file we have, right? So PDF of that. So for that we can use this first edition, these numbers, 11th and 12th chapter. If you have the second edition with you, you can use these corresponding pages. So this what is your syllabus content. Now you please tell me, how do we use memory? What is the use of memory in the operating system? So how can you choose memory? Whenever anyone is trying to buy a laptop, how you are telling that which memory to use? How can you just figure out this much, the prerequisite of this? Just you tell me, if I want to store 1 bit of data, let us say I want to store 1 KB of data. I want to store 1 KB of data, right? How this is stored in memory? How this 1 KB is stored in memory? And if I want to delete something in 1 KB, 1 KB is what? The data completely of 1024 bits, correct? If I want to delete the last bit, single bit value, binary bit value 1, if I want to replace this value by 0, or I want to delete this value, how it is possible? Okay, these are the prerequisite for this. Prerequisite, if you can able to understand. And one more thing you should know is what is 1 KB, right? And what is 1 MB, what is 1 GB, what is 1 TB, right? After this, what is next after 1 TB? What is 1 KB equals to in terms of bits? What is 1 MB? What is 1 GB? All this if you know. And how much memory is what an operating system can support? All that, something interesting stuff you can learn and come. And we'll discuss much more clearly in the next class how this memory management is going to function and what all the functionalities of it we're going to see, right? So it will be looks lengthy, but actually this is an interesting part, memory aspects. So after that we'll go through the proceedings. Yeah. Any doubts you have so far, you please ask me. Anyone have any queries, any questions regarding second module is concerned? You need to read from user level and kernel level threads we have already seen. Yeah. Non-preemptive scheduling and preemptive scheduling is what you have to see for the next IA. And then you should see the scheduling in Unix and Linux. Okay, you can get probably 10 marks question from the module 2 and 30 marks from module 3 and 10 marks from module 4. That's what as per now it is prescribed. Let us see that later. Yeah. So we'll see in the next class contiguous memory allocation, the first topic what we have written here, right? So this is what we're going to see in the next class. Okay, so this one we'll start in the next class. So this one. Okay, so anything you have, anything you feel like to study and come related to memory, you can please go through that and you can study. Right? Yeah, any doubts and any queries, please let me know. Any queries? Any one of you? So one request for you is every day you start. Please ask. Tell me.
Scheduling of Linux is not there in the notes.
Scheduling of which one? Unix is not there.
Linux.
Linux. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
No, it should be there. I'll tell you the page number. If I am 1 second, I'll just check it out. You check 7.6.3. 7.6.3. You can check page number 263. You check that. If you don't have this one, I'll take that screenshot and I'll send it to you. Scheduling of Linux. Linux is what you are telling me. Right?
Actually, I don't have textbook, sir.
A textbook, it is there here, right? You can download straight away anytime.
Okay,
where
sir.
it is. 1 second. If you go to the Teams, right, you can able to download the textbook. I think I have not reallocated to you to your resources. You see the 6th semester Teams. Let us say for reference, I'll show 6th A. So you can go to the file section. Okay. So any material updating, I'm updating in your group. Now what I'll do is I'll update in the team what we have only, right? You can see here operating systems. So I'll update everything in the R corresponding team only. I kept it there. I thought you can be referring from that. So I have not kept it here. I'll check it. B section I have kept. Okay, update that. Okay, A section I probably have not kept it. I think here I have kept it. Yeah, here this entity I have not kept it. I'll update that in our team. Okay, so this is a textbook what we have. So this one, full textbook of operating systems will have. So I'll update that. So this one I'll update in operating systems team. So this one here I'll update it. Here in file section. So this is the team what we are following. Here I'll update all the things. Okay, it's not there. I need kept it still. I'll update it here. Okay, you can straight away download from this part. Right? I'll do that today. So apart from that, any doubts, any questions? Okay, let us just check once whether we have that in that or not. Just give me 1 second. We'll try to open that. So I think 263, 7.6.3. Let us check that. It's getting loaded. Any other doubts? Anyone? Please ask me. So, 63 here, but actual numbers may vary. Let us check that. Just 1 second. So here you can see the contents, process management, the second chapter. I told you 11th chapter, right? Here the third. Yeah, 1 second. Yeah. It is not there. Okay, it's in chapter number 7. Sorry. Just in 1 minute, I'll complete that. Okay, you can see from here chapter number 7, scheduling here, right? This part. So you can see here preemptive scheduling, non-preemptive scheduling policies are there. In this only FCFS is there for our exam. FCFS and shortest request next. Only these two are there. Even there is there, you can ignore that. It is not there prescribed in syllabus copy. If it is there, you tell me, I can deal with it. Okay. And here also only these two, LCN. After that, it is 7.6.3. You can see that 7.6.3 here. Okay, you can click on this directly. Scheduling in Unix you have, and scheduling in Linux. Okay, so this case studies you can click directly here. It will go to that page. Case studies you can see. So this is scheduling in Unix. What we have, this much is good enough, and followed by this example what they are given. You can go through it or you can ignore, no problem. So next is scheduling in SolarSys is not there in syllabus, and Windows also is not there. Yeah, this one. This is your scheduling in Linux. Okay, so this one you can refer. So probably this page number is not. Yeah, 263 something. 263. Okay, this was slightly varying here, but as per this textbook, you can see page number 263 above this. Okay, so please start reading this textbook. I'll share it to you in the team, operating systems team. you can able to go through that, right? Okay, any other queries? So this one I'll add it immediately. Okay, any other queries, any questions? If not, you can please leave. We'll discuss more in the next class. We'll start the corresponding module, continuous memory allocation, and we'll complete that. Okay, yeah, thank you all. Have a nice day. You can leave now as of now. Thank you. Okay, done. I think it's addressed. Oh, in PPT it is not there. I think Bhumika correct. Okay, you can see from textbook PPT part it is not there. Correct. Okay. Yeah, thank you all.